Hi, everyone.
Hello, folks. We're on page 416 of In Search of Christian Freedom. Ray is talking about the extreme separation of Jehovah's Witnesses as a community, but more concerned with their intellectual or mental separation from the world. So when they justify that by "we are no part of the world," is that the correct understanding of that idea from the Gospel of John and from 1 John? Ray takes up the discussion this way in addressing the separation not only of the witnesses from the world, but their separation from the gospel of the first century. I strongly doubt that most persons in reading the Bible itself would ever be led to view Jesus' words about not being part of the world in the extreme way conveyed by the Watchtower publications. Not that such an exclusivistic view is not found in the Bible. It is, but it is the viewpoint taken by the Pharisees, not that taught by Jesus Christ or his apostles. As already seen, the very name Pharisee means separated or exclusive. In their extreme views, this religious group sought to be separate from and exclude from their association all persons not holding to their particular traditional teachings and standards of holiness, viewing all such as unclean.
Jesus Christ set a very different example from such extremists, and this incensed them, caused them to condemn him and the way he associated with others. In reading his words, not only in the Sermon on the Mount, but in all his teachings, one finds that Jesus' primary focus was not on an elaborate set of doctrinal interpretations, but on the real goal set out in the Scriptures, their true aim and thrust, namely, love of God and love of neighbor. His words emphasize conduct and deeds that manifest this love, and his apostles urge the same in all their letters. When they deal with the need to be discriminatory to association, it is with regard to essentials, not minor points of difference, and definitely not because of extra-biblical policies, rulings, reasonings, and interpretations, the product of sectarian thinking.
In his letter to the Galatians, the Apostle Paul does bring in the matter of teaching, saying, quote, "I am astonished at the promptness with which you have turned away from the one who called you, and have decided to follow a different version of the good news. Not that there can be more than one good news. It is merely that some troublemakers among you want to change the good news of Christ. And let me warn you that if anyone preaches a version of the good news different from the one we have already preached to you, whether it be ourselves or an angel from heaven, he is to be condemned. I am only repeating what we've told you before. If anyone preaches a version of the good news different from the one you have already heard, he is to be condemned." And that's the Jerusalem Bible version. The word condemn there is anathema. It's about as strong a word as you can utilize
that's Galatians 1.
to discuss the disgust that Paul and other Jews would have for this kind of perversion of truth. That's from Galatians chapter 1, 6-9,
right.
Jerusalem Bible.
Incredible as it may seem, those words are today applied by the Watchtower Society to any who fail to agree and who express their disagreement not with first century apostolic message that Paul preached, but with its own current teachings. Thus, after having earlier quoted these very words of Paul in a question from readers' reply, the April 1st, 1986 Watchtower goes on to say, quote, "Approved association with Jehovah's Witnesses requires accepting the entire range of the true teachings of the Bible, including those scriptural beliefs that are unique to Jehovah's Witnesses."
This is a scripture, a Watchtower that had come out just before I resigned as an elder. We'll talk about that in a minute. The article argues that those who are not rightly, argues that those who do not are rightly excommunicated. This means forcing Paul's words out of context, actually turning them around to mean exactly the opposite of what they say. For Paul shows that there is only one good news, and that It is the good news as preached in the first century, not something appearing for the first time in some 20th century publication or magazine. It is the good news that any person can find in any Bible without being dependent on some modern day publication to convey it to him. Not something that is incomprehensible without such a publication. It is not some special message or of post-apostolic development which has the effect of making the Bible alone insufficient, as applied by the Watchtower's president's morning's remarks to the headquarters family, quoted earlier. We'll deal with that at the end too.
Yeah. According to the apostle, there is one and only one message to deliver, the one already preached by him and others at that time, and recorded by inspired Bible writers. And no one, angel or man, has the right to bring in some other message I'm going to have to say that one again. Has the right to bring in some other message than that already given, which Paul calls the good news about the Christ. It is the everlasting good news, the faith that was once for all time delivered to the holy ones, and it therefore needs no adjusting, no modernizing or updating by uninspired men in our time.
So not only an angel couldn't change it, but Paul himself couldn't change it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
no new light?
And yet the Watchtower changes it. So I think we should read what this quote that
Uncle Fred?
He remarks upon Fred saying something about that relates to this.
And what page is that again?
It's on page 32 of this same book. So I'll go there. This is what Fred said at the headquarters, to the headquarters family at their breakfast one morning. Some persons are now talking about reading the Bible, that we should read just the Bible. Well, that's what Christendom's churches have been telling the people to do for centuries. And look at the mess that's resulted. It's good to remember that we were the Watchtower Tract Society for a long time before we became the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Only in comparatively recent times have we actually published Bibles. The sole purpose of our existence as a society is to announce the kingdom established in 1914 and to sound the warning of the fall of Babylon the Great. We have a special message to deliver. Whoa. I mean, even to admit, that you think this. Say it out loud. That we really don't, need to read the Bible.
Well, it's not so much that they don't need to read the Bible. It's that the Bible is sufficient. Mm-hmm. And to say that Christendom's in a mess because they believe that.
Yeah, because that's what they tell people to do, is read the Bible.
Oh, well, at least he's laying it on the line, as Fred was prone to do publicly.
And he says they have another message, a special message, 1914 tied to it.
A kingdom in 1914, yeah. And before that, of course, it was the kingdom in 1878. Yeah. And the invisible presence in 1874, and the last days in 1799.
Yeah, so line that up
the good news keeps changing.
Yeah, you line it up besides Galatians 1. They're condemned.
The very fact that they can say that as of the last century of the 20 centuries that have now gone by, that in the last century someone has a distinct message. Mm-hmm. Self-condemned.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's laying it on the line, and he's, I would say, bragging about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're putting on your screen a couple of links to videos we've done in the past on 1 Corinthians 15 and 1 Peter, where you have the good news according to Paul and the good news according to Peter. And next time, why is it that Jehovah's Witnesses are left babes in their powers of understanding, especially when it comes to the essentials of biblical Christianity?
Did you not want to say something about this Watchtower article when you were disfellowshipped, you said, when you in 86?
Oh, all right, yeah. I think what brought that to my attention back then was that I had a Bible study who said, "Yeah, look what they're saying. he was thinking of getting baptized, and yet he realized that to be baptized you'd have to
believe
in
all
effect,
their teachings.
All the unique teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses you'd have to believe and be able to defend.
Mm-hmm.
And being an elder, of course, I had to confront the fact, yeah, that is exactly what they're claiming here.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that they have unique teachings, I mean, they're not just unique, they're unique in all church history.
Yeah.
And nobody has had these teachings that they're putting forward.
And again, therefore self-condemn. Because I guess I was fooling myself all those years till my Bible study threw it in my lap that, well, we're kind of the best out there, the best option. And then I realized, no, by Paul's standard, we're self-condemned. Because he is saying, in effect, that changing of the gospel was already happening when he was alive, when the apostles are still on the earth. But 18 centuries later, the Watchtower actually specializes in unique teachings, and they're not unique in that themselves, that all the cults have unique teachings.
Right.
So you have to make a decision, I think, based upon this text that says it's not just a matter of some are better or clearer in their teachings, more biblical than others. There's an anathema pronounced upon some people for having the wrong good news.
Yeah.
Not for having wrong teachings, but for having the wrong gospel.
Yeah.
And I think the two videos we've put up on your screen right now make that much clearer than we can here, commenting on Ray.
So remember,
check them out.
Remember to press on them, and they'll open up for you.
So rather than call them links from now on, which has apparently led some people to think they're hyperlinks. No, we're talking about video links on the screen.
Yeah.
So press these two, and you'll get to Paul and Peter's gospel. And next time, why are Jehovah's Witnesses left babes in their powers of understanding, especially as to Christian essentials?